SNESdrunk. Hello, let's take a look at the best Super Nintendo homebrew games out there, and by best, I really mean the only ones I've played that I've liked. There's really not that many out there. So what is a homebrew? It's a game made from scratch. There's no hacks or patches to apply to a pre-existing game ROM. These are new projects built from the ground up for the most part. Now, not all of these are going to rock your world, mainly because there just aren't very many completely finished homebrew projects out there. It's mostly just demos and ongoing projects, as you'll see here. And there just aren't very many good homebrews due to the Super Nintendo being a bit of a pain to program for. Take Unholy Night, for instance, a homebrew project with good intentions, but the game sucks. It feels like a Saturn port crudely crammed onto a Super Nintendo cartridge. But not all homebrews are created equal. There's some quality lurking out there, like Nightmare Busters. This is actually a game that was made and scheduled for release way back in 1995, but was canceled due to a lack of funding. The original developer was an outfit called Arcade Zone, who also made Iron Commando for the Super Famicom back in the day, but the project was never totally finished until the folks at Super Fighter Team were able to finish it up for release nearly 20 years later in 2013. This is a fun one, and it definitely looks, feels, and plays like a proper Super Nintendo release. The sprite work is great, the controls are solid, and it allows for 2-player co-op. Bear in mind, since this is a run-and-gun title, it's a very difficult playthrough. Like, I'm talking like Pocky and Rocky or Earthworm Jim or Contra kind of difficulty. Like the beginning of level 3 where this cave is collapsing and you have to dodge both enemies and boulders falling on top of you. Or this part where you have to drop down this pit and avoid all the spikes. Ugh. Still, Nightmare Busters has that good kind of difficulty in my opinion. It's not too cheap and not too frustrating, and it makes for a good time. Another really tough homebrew game with a lot of polish is Xenocrisis. Or is that Xenocrisis? I don't know. It's technically a port of a Sega Genesis homebrew made by Bitmap Bureau and released back in 2019, but any way you play this game, it's a great time. This is a top-down run-and-gun title that's compatible with up to 2 players, and you move from room to room similar to a game like Smash TV, where you just blast everything that moves, and it plays like a twin-stick shooter too, which is always fun to do on a Super Nintendo controller. Again though, this game is stupidly hard, even on the easiest difficulty setting. But man, just look at these bosses. This looks like it was pulled straight from David Cronenberg's worst nightmares. Perhaps most impressively though is the soundtrack, which frickin' destroys. If you only check out one game in this video, make sure it's Xenocrisis. There's also a couple of remake/demake homebrew projects I want to point out, none better than New Super Mario Land, made by a fellow who wishes to remain anonymous to avoid the bigwigs at Nintendo. And all I can say about this project is wow. This is a recreation of the original Super Mario Land for Game Boy, and as you can see, it uses the same kind of pre-rendered sprites that you'll recognize from the Donkey Kong Country series. And yeah, this is a full-on remake, capturing the original enemies, bosses, level layouts, and music, but rather than playing like the Game Boy game, instead the controls are closer to the new Super Mario Bros. Series on Nintendo Wii. It even supports up to 4-player co-op, although I haven't tried that out myself. But still, it's an amazing achievement, and it's the perfect way to revisit a great game. Next, I want to talk about something called the SNES Developer Game Jam, where a group of fledgling homebrew creators got together on itch.io this past September to crank out a collection of new Super Nintendo homebrew projects like this one here, which is simply a 16-bit demake of Celeste. There's no music or sound in this one, but it is, in fact, Celeste on the Super Nintendo, which is pretty cool. Big shout out to Sven for letting me know about this event, and bear in mind that most of the projects I'll be talking about here are merely just that, projects. There's not many full-fledged games yet, but there's definitely some promise here. Many folks made their own original works as part of that game jam, like this one here called Super Bug Hunters, made by Maxwell Olinda, and he created a fast-paced run-and-gun game with original music and sound, as well as support for up to 2 players, including an option to play with a computer-controlled second player. I like this game, both because the Super Nintendo always kind of lacked when it came to side-scrolling run-and-guns like this. I mean, you got Contra, Earthworm Jim, and Super Turrican, and that's about it. And because it's well made with very fair difficulty. Sometimes games like this end up being way too hard, but this one's fun overall. Bear in mind there's only a couple levels to this one so far, so here's hoping this project becomes more of a full-fledged game one day. Another homebrew from the SNES Game Jam is Der Wanderknecht, made by longtime SNES homebrew veteran Goldlock. And this is another strong effort, especially in the visual department. The backgrounds look like something out of Yoshi's Island. The game has you sprinting through each level on a timer, featuring all sorts of tricks and shortcuts for you to find along the way. This is another well-made project with some really satisfying controls, and it doesn't feel out of place in the Super Nintendo library, so fingers crossed this one gets a few more levels and a bit more polish. Desolate, made by Crisps, and that's their username. Sadly, it wasn't made by actual Crisps, but this game has you stranded on a big-ass space station while aliens take control, and you have to fight your way to find 3 keycards in order to escape. This is a top-down adventure game that looks really promising. Right now, it's only a short playthrough at around 15 minutes, but there's definitely something here. I like the dash mechanic, both as a way to dodge and to speed up your exploration. I could totally see this game getting another 5 or 6 maps where you have to rescue folks from other space stations or something like that, because everything else is in place here, the graphics and the music especially. If puzzle games are more your thing, then there's Sure Instinct, made by Benny SNESdev, and this is one of the more polished games on this list. It looks really simple, you're just rolling a ball around to collect gems for points, but when you roll onto these striped areas, it flips the map around, showing that each map has 2 sides to it, and it's up to you to figure out how to use that to navigate to the end of the map. This project is also compatible with the SNES mouse, and it even has a tutorial level when you first start playing to show you how everything works. Again, another very promising project that'll hopefully continue to progress. Here's another quick and dirty homebrew called Jet Pilot Rising, made by Dieter von Laser, a project that was originally developed in 24 hours as a speed coding project, and you're a cat flying a missile through one long corridor. It's not much, but it does give me a chance to give one last shout out to the 2025 SNES Game Jam. This year's edition had 18 projects submitted, and it's clear that there's a ton of skilled and talented folks out there that are still creating some solid 16-bit Super Nintendo games from scratch. And a big part of this video is to simply call attention to some of that work being done. So keep it up, folks, and best of luck to you. There's still a few more homebrews I want to get to, and this one actually got a release on a Super Nintendo cartridge, and it's called Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death. It's actually the second game in the Sydney Hunter series. The first game, The Sacred Tribe, was made for ColecoVision and Intellivision, and the follow-up was made for SNES, and it looks and plays like a game you would have seen in 1993. You're using a boomerang to fight ghosts and bats and frogs, and you explore a series of caves underneath a volcano. And yes, this is a full-fledged start-to-finish game if that's primarily what you're looking for. It's got a story with cutscenes and everything, and it's pretty good. The controls feel a little off for me, which led to some really cheap deaths, but it's still well worth checking out. Now, I'm kind of cheating a bit with this next one because it only really works with SNES Flash cartridges that feature MSU1 support. This is Super Road Blaster, and yeah, your eyes are not deceiving you, this is full motion video, making this one play more like an arcade game like Dragon's Lair, where you're supposed to time your choices at the right moment in order to progress. I've talked about this project before in a past video, but man, this one is just a fun time. It's about a 20-minute playthrough, and it's insane that this can run on a Super Nintendo, even if it only works with a Flash cartridge. Finally, I'll end with the funniest game on this list, Super Boss Gaiden. I did do a video on this one several years back, and it's another Dieter von Laser effort with help from Chrono Moogle, and believe it or don't, this project was made for the SNES PlayStation prototype. You play as Boss, who's the head of Sony, and he's also a completely insane person who orders every prototype be destroyed. Of course, as many of us know, one prototype did get out back in 2015, and as a result of that, Boss goes into a homicidal rage, punching, kicking, and destroying everything in his path. This is another full game, although it's only about a 20-minute playthrough, and it's worth your time. It's got a few laughs, and since it's clearly influenced by the Kunio-kun series, known in America as the River City Ransom series, the game actually controls really well, and it features a pretty diverse moveset. It's a fun way to kill time during your break at work, if nothing else. And that is all for now. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.